70,000 people are here, and then Bob Dylan is the reason for it.
Inspired by their true story.
For anyone who's going to hold your attention on a stage, you have to kind of be a freak.
Are you a freak?
Hope so.
And starring Timothy Chalamet as Bob Dylan. He defied everyone.
Turn it down! Play loud!
To change everything.
Make some noise, Big D.
Timothy Chalamet, Edward Norton, Elle Fanning, Monica Barbaro. A complete unknown. Only in theaters Christmas Day. Rated R. Under 17, not admitted without parent.
When hinges creak and floorless changes, and sounds happen in the candlelight. When deathly still chambers echo through the night. That's the Haunted Mansion time. Welcome, real and cool listeners, to Scraping the Vault. I am your host. Your real and cool host. Kindly step into the elevator and try not to fart. I guess that's it. Cue theme song. And cue the intro in 5, 4, 3.
From the ashes of various loved ones who have been scattered throughout the attraction of the Haunted Mansion and then vacuumed up by the cast members, it's Scraping the Vault. Hi, I'm Dan. I'm here to welcome you to, okay, get in, fill all the available space, forget the COVID ever happened, fill all the available space, fill it, shove it in. Okay,
kiss
now move away from the walls, kiss your neighbors, away from the walls. Yeah, so that's me. We also have Jimmy.
Hi.
And
Lick
Audrey's
those
here.
walls.
Hi, I'm here.
And guess who's here today? It's Erik.
What a surprise.
Eric's not normally here. What the hell?
But why is Erik here, Dan?
We went to
because
Eric's house and then left, and then we're haunted by him.
we had diarrhea all over the floor.
That we did. It's scary diarrhea.
Why they thought it was mine, I'll never know.
Right. So, well, because Erik is part of a podcast that you probably already listened to, but if you don't, you should. And it's called The Supreme Resort, where Jimmy, Erik, and myself talk about paint color for like 3 hours.
I thought you were gonna plug the Hub Crawl.
Eric's also part of the Hub Crawl,
the award-winning show.
Yes,
and Dan's also been a host from the beginning for 35
from the very
years.
beginning. Yes. So this is the Haunted Mansion is a movie based on a ride, and that ride is at Disneyland and Disney World.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's right.
Oh, let's have Erik here, right?
Which one's better?
Oh God.
Disney World. Walt Disney World.
You mentioned that on the Supreme Resort. We determined that Disney World's was better.
No way.
Ever so slightly. Yeah.
I listened to some of that episode. I was telling Dan the other day at the spaghetti event.
Okay. While you were with Dan.
Savor the awkwardness for later.
I guess I wanted to hear it from your lips to my ears versus like, you know.
Well, I wasn't on that one. So
Erik wasn't on it, but
yeah, you'll have to ask Jeremy.
Disney World is better. What about when the Christmas theme is on?
That's why Disney World is better.
Because they don't do the Christmas theme?
Well, because the Haunted Mansion is the thing that is so beloved. And like 5 months out of the year, it's not the Haunted Mansion. It's the holiday overlay, which is not necessarily as beloved. Mm-hmm. So Disney World ultimately won because it's always the Haunted Mansion. In its purest form.
So then in Disney World, do they make the Pirates of the Caribbean like the Nightmare Before Christmas thing?
Yes, they do.
Hey, everybody, I'm in a boat now.
And instead of Jack Skellington, it's
Halloween.
Jack
Who wants
Sparrow.
to buy Sally?
It's Jack Sparrowkin.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So, I'm glad you were able to listen to what is universally considered our most comfortable to listen to episode.
And where can we find this episode if listeners are interested?
Just follow the link below in the description.
Wonderful.
Now Jimmy used to do it.
Podcast. Oh,
We've derailed already, unlike the Haunted Mansion ride.
Not to. Oh my.
Oh, it never
Which is
derails.
on a
Sometimes
rail.
it stops.
It is on a, Audrey has you've scrubbed up on some Haunted Mansion attraction knowledge, I believe.
Yeah. You know, I did a lot of homework, and by a lot, I mean very little. I watched this movie, which we'll get into, and then I watched the 2003 movie, at least 2/3 of
joint?
it. Yeah, I didn't finish it because I got bored.
2/3 too many.
2/3 too many. And then I watched a ride through of the non-holiday version of the Haunted Mansion, and then I listened to part of the Supreme Resort episode. So, and I looked at a picture of like the track layout on Google Images. So I guess you could say I'm an expert now.
Practically. The only thing you missed, besides partially watching a bunch of things, is watching the Muppets Haunted Mansion. That would have done yourself a nice favor.
Raise your hand if you've seen it. Okay, Jimmy and Eric.
We're all raising
Dan,
our hands. Oh, no,
haven't?
just Jimmy and Eric. Dan does not.
Well,
don't know why.
Because it looks irritating, to be honest.
All right.
I feel like a bulk of, and from what I've heard, this is the case. A bulk of the humor is like, huh? What if we do it now? Huh? What about
the
that?
Muppets, though?
You mean the Muppets humor?
The Muppets humor.
but like they don't add. I don't add anything to it. It's just like it's wacky because it's Miss Piggy doing it, and that's not what usually happens.
I honestly sounds.
Why are
better
you surprised that I would find that irritating?
I don't know. I thought you liked the Muppets. That's all.
I do, but I'm not. I don't. The way I enjoy things isn't like, hey, you like this, so therefore you must love this picture of that thing. It's like, no, I like the thing. I don't necessarily care that someone made a reference to it.
Anyway, so
he told me he liked the picture I took of him.
Yeah, he likes himself. He just doesn't like pictures of himself.
Right.
It's true. It's true.
We watched this movie, all of us, independently in 4 different theaters.
It's true.
In 3 different time zones.
I could have been watching Oppenheimer or Barbie, but no, I did this for
Barbie.
You guys. How did you like
Barbie
it?
Barbie was good. It's going to win an Oscar for something. I'm just saying. It's a good movie.
If you think ghosts are scary, you should look at the negotiation process for Japanese surrender towards the end of World War II.
It's true.
Yeah. It's a good point, Asher.
So this movie.
Are you doing
came
a
out
history segment in school right now, Asher, on World War II?
He's asleep again.
Summer school.
So this movie came out in 2023. Yes. He's in pre-middle school currently. This movie came out in 2023. A few things happened in 2023. We're going to talk about it. So, in January, Croatia became the first country to join the Eurozone since Lithuania in 2015. It also adopted the euro currency and joined the Schengen area as the 27th member. Remember in February 3rd, 2023, when suspicious objects were shot down, those spy balloons over the U.S.? Well, apparently it wasn't a UFO. And then, hey, you know how in 2023 Russia was in Ukraine, and we were like, that's not good, but we don't really know what to do. So that happened. Hey, do you remember ChatGPT? It was launched by OpenAI. Yeah, and it took the world by storm. And as we have learned from multiple pieces of history on this show, technology is always helpful. Let's see. Elon Musk, the smartest man ever, built some space stuff, and he threw it in the sky with his massive biceps. And then, let's see what else. The Queen died.
As he did so, he went.
What a hunk.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Queen died, yeah.
That's what happened.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. I also have a trailer. Do we want a trailer?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Been a bit, yeah.
Here we go.
Welcome to an extraordinary world filled with magic and wonder. Open your mind and let yourself go. to a place where every day is Halloween and every night Jack Skellington
I am the Pumpkin King!
dreams of something different.
What is
So this is everyone's favorite ride, the Haunted Mansion. You know why I love the Haunted Mansion so much? Is because I'm such a dark and interesting person. Let me tell you about it as we spend all day at the park together.
I can't believe my eyes. I must be dreaming. Wake up, Jack.
Okay.
Hey, it's Christmas and Halloween.
That's
I
right.
know. What could go wrong?
I want to see like a movie about combining Easter and Thanksgiving, or like Thanksgiving and another holiday.
Flag
How
Day.
cool would that be?
I think Valentine's Day and Easter.
All of the cool characters from Flag Day with all of your favorite characters from Thanksgiving.
I have the perfect combination: Ramadan
Okay.
and Thanksgiving.
Ooh.
No.
Because you have to fast.
I was trying to come up with something that involved eagles with 4th of July, but
Ooh.
yours is better than whatever I would have come up with.
National Donut Day and National Lipstick Day.
Oh no, what a
They seem to
conundrum.
go together.
The Easter Bunny wants to understand what love is, so it takes over Valentine's Day, and then it learns how to love.
That's funny because
And then they
bunnies.
fuck like bunnies.
Yeah. And it's all puppets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like Team America.
Yeah, we all have to
Ooh.
find a date for the Easter Bunny.
That's right.
we all
Cupid's there.
do matchmaking for the Easter Bunny.
And
And
the Easter
Santa.
Bunny wants to
Ooh.
become Cupid.
Okay, so the ride is like a combination of the Love Boat tunnel and
Yes.
like a dark ride rabbit hole.
Yeah, and at
It's
the end,
perfect.
it's just Santa and the Easter Bunny making out, making kissing sounds.
Someone's been reading my fanfiction.net stories.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So we watched The Haunted Mansion, and I have scoured the interwebs for a brief synopsis, but this will be, of course, more dialogue, more interaction than me reading.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, listener,
Spoilers.
even though we have warned you several times throughout several episodes, if you're just listening to this one and you haven't seen the movie, if you continue listening, so basically, yeah, we're going to have spoilers.
Oh yeah, but
Like,
big spoiler warning.
We don't really care.
That's
and
why
from
part
this
of the
point
reason
on,
this episode is late.
yeah, if you come, if from that point on, if you complain about us making spoilers, we'll make fun of you.
We'll laugh at
So,
you.
because this is a crossover, this episode is going to be a combination of talking about the movie and our opinions about it and what happened, and also references to the attraction.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the crossover with Erik. So that's going to be the primary focus of this episode. Full disclosure, I borrowed a lot from New Rockstars, a YouTube channel. Erik Voss did a phenomenal breakdown of the movie, and he tied in a lot of references and Easter eggs of the attraction. So I want to kind of highlight a lot of those. Obviously, get your guys' opinion about the movie. But let me start with just Erik Voss's. By the way, go watch this on YouTube. It's great.
Yeah.
This is from Erik Voss, New Rockstars. This is a story of a paranormal tour guide as he helps a single mom and her son with their newfound haunted mansion. Between the minor jump scares, heart-wrenching, and grim storyline, this movie just pulled off so many laughs and is a clear adaptation of the ride at Disneyland. This movie is pretty much the experience of riding the ride at Disneyland, and I loved all the Easter eggs in it. So if you're a fan of the Disney attraction, you're going to love this movie. If you like confused Danny DeVito, you'll love this movie. An array of surprise cameos, a ton of Easter eggs, and just a lot of advice on grief and learning how to continue forth as the shell of a person you once were after losing a loved one. That's the Haunted Mansion.
Is it a genuine?
It's genuine. Yeah, it's genuine.
Okay. I wasn't sure what they did at the end. I'm like, is that tongue in cheek or not?
Well, I mean, genuine in that those are the opinions that this person who
That's right.
was probably paid
Fair.
by Disney to write this article most likely actually has.
You know, I really appreciate Erik Voss's YouTube channel. I really appreciate his gives very honest feedback. He does have sponsors. Disney's not one of them. But clearly, whoever wrote this, if it wasn't him, is a really big fan of Disney, the ride, because they went. I mean, there's a ton. Found.
If you are looking for ride references, this is the movie for you.
Jimmy would enjoy being mugged if the mugger made an obscure Disney reference while robbing him blind.
I mean, he's right. He's absolutely right.
Asher,
So-
you kidder.
We'll talk about it.
Hey, you know who didn't make Tony Baxter didn't make the balloons in the land? It was
okay.
Rolly Crump.
Okay, fine. Take it on.
Spoiler warning. Rolly Crump.
I wrote
first
down
of all,
what
sorry, you two nerds. I wasn't saying that means that Tony Baxter was in. It was just
That's
a
why I didn't
joke about
correct
Tony
you.
Baxter.
That's why I
all
didn't
it
correct
was.
you. It wasn't a partial correction. It was a Tony Baxter joke. It's a running
Listener,
joke.
you'll understand this
That's why
if you
I'm
listen to
answering
the
it on a
Supreme
different
Resort. Anyway, so want to focus a lot about that, but that opening statement, laughs, heart-wrenching.
Sure. You could call those that.
Sorry,
Did you have a
I wrote down what I thought the movie was going to be in the
Ooh.
it was a very dark theater and I couldn't take notes and I was eating popcorn, which was good. And that was a nice part of the experience. The popcorn was good. I wrote, okay, the mansion is alive and it's going to have an elevator in it, a spiritual elevator. But the mansion is dying and all the residents are going to be turned into Tiana's Bayou Adventure. What do we do? So that's
deep cut from Audrey.
It's gonna there's gonna be twists, there's gonna be turns, there's gonna be death-defying drops, and there weren't
all
any
of
of
that came
those.
true.
Well,
I
guess in a way,
there's a death-defying drop because the whole hallway spins and
that's true.
Well, that's what I had. Did you guys do this?
What?
Did you guys do the same thing?
No,
I did not, and I couldn't. So my prediction was that, and I'm not gonna say right now whether it became true or not. My prediction was that I would hate this movie, for all the reasons that everyone. Jimmy's nodding his head. Anyone listening, any regular listeners probably agree with that assessment. I, however, could not. I also could not write notes because I saw this movie in 4DX. Which
you felt this movie.
I rode the movie in ways both pleasant and unpleasant.
I can't wait to hear about that experience.
Oh my goodness.
Oh man.
And I saw it with my mom.
Yeah.
Mama's boy. I did not think that this movie would have as much of the attraction in it.
Yeah.
But my takeaway is, and maybe it wasn't like Erik Voss said, that it's pretty much the experience of riding the ride at Disneyland. I could see where he could land there, but I really did like that if you've never been on this ride and you watch this movie and then you go on the ride, there's so much imagery that is in the ride from the movie. It's the opposite of Pirates of the Caribbean, where there's that ride with its IP, and then the Pirates of the Caribbean movies are what they are. And there's some imagery from the rides, but if you're a little kid and you go see that movie and fall in love with Jack Sparrow, and then you go to Disneyland and they don't have Jack Sparrow,
right? You're
like, what's going on? Is this a Pirates ride or not? Whereas this one, I'm not sad if I don't see Rosario Dawson. You know what I mean? Because I see the Hatbox Ghost and I see a lot of the imagery, the hitchhiking ghosts, and we'll get to all the other Easter eggs. But I thought they managed it really well, and I didn't expect that there would be as much ride imagery as there was.
Yeah. Eric, you said you had something you thought was going to be?
Yeah, just loose notes. I didn't write out thoroughly, but my thought going in, based on one of the trailers that I saw, I don't think I saw the other trailer that came out. I think we just did it on Walkabout or something. Another hit show on the Years Up Network.
One of 7 that Erik is involved in.
My take was an eclectic cast of interesting people, including Danny DeVito, and many others hire Madame Leota to figure out what's wrong with this haunted house, and then she gets trapped in a bubble.
I mean, you're not wrong.
And I thought that she started, that's kind of what I was thinking.
Oh, right, okay.
And I was definitely predicting a doom buggy full of references. I was going for full reference mode. Even though I came home after the movie and watched Pirates and went, okay, yeah. Well, we'll talk about that at the end or something, because I did watch Pirates. I wanted, my thought going into the movie was, let's compare it to my experience of watching Pirates for the first time and going, it's the dog. And a few other things, but...
That's an interesting conversation to have. I don't know. I'm just really glad that they got Jared Leto, because, I mean, the movie without him would have been...
Was he in the movie?
I don't know.
I don't think he was actually in it. His voice might have been, but I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, there's nothing discernible about
it was heavily
Jared
modulated.
Leto.
It could have been...
It could have been literally anyone.
Animation. Why couldn't they do it practically? It would have been cool if they had practical, like, prosthetics and stuff. Speaking as someone who knows how to do makeup a little, not that kind of makeup, but like, you know what I mean?
I suspect that they were like, okay, let's get Jared Leto. That's a good idea. And then at some point, someone was like, he's just going to show up and like mail rats to everybody. Let's just do CGI and then just give him credit.
That they just, like, we want your name because there are Jared Leto fans. So we'll just pay you $4 million to use your name.
And he'll be fine.
Yeah.
It's like phoning
but
it
like
in,
you said, it was so modulated, it might
phone
not have been.
in.
Yeah, he literally called in on a phone.
They called him.
As well.
They were like, we just want your name.
Jared, can you say the following things out of context?
Through your iPhone.
The special effects, though, can we talk about them? We'll get into it. They look like bad. They look bad. It looked like a bad video game. I didn't like this movie.
You know what makes bad video games better, though?
What?
A moving chair.
Yeah, good point.
I'm not convinced.
The theater's spitting on you.
The theater spits on you whenever feasibly possible.
Okay,
if you want to know when to be shocked by something suddenly appearing in 4DX, they conveniently have a little thing by the side, a little air cannon by the side of your ear that goes.
Nice.
This is awesome.
Several times.
Oh, the past has finally come to life. The dream of so many schlock guys.
Oh, yeah.
In the 50s.
So this movie, what actually happened, very much like the Disneyland attraction, this movie opens up in New Orleans because, the ride's in New Orleans Square. And Madame Leota says, "Welcome, foolish mortals," just like the ghost host from the ride. That's Easter egg number 1. We meet Ben Melthius as Ben. He's an astrophysicist developing a camera to detect dark matter. He meets and marries Alyssa. She's a ghost tour guide and becomes entranced with her belief in the supernatural. At this time, when he meets her, Ben says he doesn't drink much, so he and Alyssa share a beer. After Alyssa dies in a car accident, Ben then gives up his career and he continues to run her ghost tour for her. That transition shows that he's like clearly day drunk now.
Yeah.
He's very depressed about losing his wife. He lives on Royal Street, which is fun.
That's a hidden Mickey because it's Royal Street.
The dialogue
it's a hidden mansion.
In the first scene is like, so I don't know. Is that how people talk now? I don't leave my house often enough. I leave my house enough, but is this how
every time I meet an
movie,
astrophysicist, that's how I talk to him.
It was just like,
but I liked it. I thought it was
a tour guide.
Charming. I thought that it worked. They had enough in common while being different to complement each other. It didn't bother me.
I wasn't too upset about that.
I bought it.
I didn't believe it. First 30 seconds, I was like, nope.
I thought
it was a different movie.
well, this is nice. My seat isn't moving anymore. And there's some character development happening. Let's see what the characters have to say. And I enjoyed what they were saying because it was a brief moment where I was just able to focus on some aspect of the movie that was the movie.
When the love part happened, when they fell in love, they didn't like artificially warm your chest.
If they could have, I guarantee you they would have.
Give him butterflies. We also, guys, we see Lafayette Cemetery, but in the movie they call it Fernet Cemetery. As the jazz man plays a jazz band, a U-Haul truck drives by, and it's featuring a man with a skull on the U-Haul truck. This is, of course, the protagonist's U-Haul truck. Normal U-Haul trucks in New Orleans feature classic Mardi Gras mask and jester. Also, we get a shot of the truck driving on the causeway, which this is a long bridge.
It's very bumpy, by the way. And you know how I know this?
According to 40X.
Yeah, 40X.
It's not that bumpy, but it is really creepy.
It's rather bumpy.
So this causeway bridge connects Mandeville to Metairie in Louisiana. And what's interesting is we got the same shot in the first Haunted Mansion movie when the family's driving away from the mansion. And this is our protagonist driving towards the mansion.
By the way, that drive is bumpy every single time anyone takes it.
Now we know.
Good old American infrastructure.
Over a swamp.
Yep.
So the Haunted Mansion in the movie is like the aesthetics are identical. It's clearly bigger than the ride show building, but the pillars are the same. The design of the guardrails are the same. Colors, the windows, it's all identical.
To the California one, which
correct.
Is,
which we'll get into the Disney World one.
Yes.
Get into this with Roller Crump. So far, how we doing? Audrey's still unhappy.
I mean, like in this moment in real life, I feel fine. But yeah, I was like, this popcorn's pretty good, though. That's how I felt.
Dan's getting a butt massage.
Yeah, no, it was so far, and when I'm watching this movie, I'm thinking, okay, I'm waiting for it to start sucking. Right now, like, it's not.
Are you talking about the theater? You're waiting for the theater to start sucking?
Yeah. I'm waiting for the little thing.
It's giving you a massage.
Come out. By the way, there was a discussion about whether we were going to keep the water on or turn it off. That's a part of. I can't remember that.
You have a choice.
Did they poll the audience? Everybody's like, on.
Yeah, it was like, I mean, was the dialogue great? No. Were they talking like people I've ever seen in real life? No, but like, I know I know the movie I'm watching, right? It does, and it at no point at this point has it crossed over the line to like, what the hell are you doing? That's that's kind of what I'm expecting to happen at any moment. That moment where it's just like, oh, what? No, I cannot accept this.
That's fair.
We're not.
Listener, stay tuned to if that moment ever happens.
Ooh.
So
get your popcorn
single mother,
now.
That's right. And your massage chair. Single mother Gabby and her son Travis moved to Gracie Manor. Now, Audrey, fun fact, it's called Gracie Manor. It's also called Gracie Manor in Disneyland.
Okay.
And it's named after an Imagineer who worked on the ride called Yale Gracie.
All right. I thought the mom was dressed very old-fashioned, and I was like confused at what time period the mom and son were showing up to the house in. I thought they could have been
also well dressed.
Maybe they could have been ghosts.
Yeah, the son was well dressed. I think the answer is timeless. Timeless is the era.
Right. I thought they were coming from like the 70s, and somehow I think it's Lakeith, right? The actor, or Sam?
Yeah.
The main character. No, his main character's name is Ben.
Ben.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Ben was clearly from the 2020s, but then they showed up. But then they were driving like a brand new BMW, and I was like, wait a second, what's going on here? Why are they dressed like idiots? So
Ben,
costume designers, so what are you doing?
I don't know. They're on strike probably. Lakeith is a phenomenal actor.
He is.
Yes.
I liked him in that.
I enjoyed him. Yeah.
He was in Get Out and like a movie about phone calls or something. Did you guys see that one?
Phone booth? That was
Colin Farrell.
Thank you.
No,
that was
no. No, I'll look it up later.
He was a minor character in Knives Out.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
He's really good. I like
He's one
him
of the
a lot.
detectives.
He's a good-looking dude. He's a good actor.
Yeah, I watched it with a friend, and I was like, "Oh, this actor's really good." So, but
and in
the writing is bad.
Well, it is.
The dialogue. I'll be more specific. The dialogue is weird to me. The dialogue is really forced.
I agree that's why when he was selling the bad dialogue, I was impressed.
Yeah, no kidding. Especially that scene when he talks about. Well, we'll get to it. All right, so the idea is they want to turn this into a bed and breakfast, right? That was the idea. Mm-hmm. And then when they get there, they learn that it's haunted with ghosts. So when Travis, it's the son, opens the door, we see a ghoulish lion head dead center and a snake-like handle, which is at the Haunted Mansion attraction at Disneyland.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Travis gets into his room of only cobwebs, and he's greeted by Constance.
Yes.
Audrey Constance in the ride. Constance Hatchaway is a ghost who stays in the attic with her hatchet. She's decapitated her 5 husbands and waits for more suitors to kill.
This is why you should like the movie.
Constance, isn't that robbing the cradle a little bit? He seems a bit young for you. Come on, sis.
Well, she wasn't into him.
She was looking for her next victim to behead. Yeah. I don't know if they were going to be wed, but
do
you mean Imagineering, Audrey?
Huh? I wonder. I like making crafts and stuff and designing characters. Like, I could do that. Whatever. It's like it's hard.
So there's moving armor. We see it's in the preview, ladies and gentlemen. If you haven't seen the movie, that armor head moves. There's a little bit of that in the ride, right? Little moving armor.
There is armor that moves. It's not like a major
it just kind of rattles a little bit.
Yeah.
Also, like in the ride, a ghost will follow and haunt you until you return.
I really liked that touch.
That was nice.
At the end of the ride, Audrey, it says the narrator says there are these hitchhiking ghosts, right? In the ride,
I remember
there's 3.
Being very scared by that when I first went on it as a kid. That was one of the things that I remembered from my first visit when I was like 8 or whatever. 9.
So once
6.
you've entered the mansion, they'll haunt you until you return. One of these ghosts are going to follow you home. Mm-hmm. So that's the premise of this movie. Mm-hmm. Just like the ride, you're going to be haunted until you return. And then you'll be back, says the Hatbox Ghost as they leave. So in the logic of this movie, this is the best I could tell, it takes about 2 hours until you're scared or irritated to come back to the house. I think that's right. It takes 2 hours.
Irritated.
Irritated by the ghost.
What if you're like a really patient person? Because I'm pretty patient. I'll be like, I don't want to interrupt this ghost while they're haunting. I'll just, and
Ben took home Sea Captain.
Sea Captain.
Mm.
Yeah, I was going to get to that. There's a lot about the Sea Captain, the mariner.
Right.
But the way, I wanted
that's
to know
all
more
from the
about
rides.
It. Oh, got it.
But
I'll tell you more.
Outside of where it fits on the ride, what I liked about it in the movie was that, there's some context that you're, I think, going to add, but then the mariner just wants to watch
Deadliest Catch.
Like the greatest deadliest catch.
The deadliest catch. I have that written down.
So funny.
A good touch. And I just realized I skipped ahead a little bit in the movie.
A lot of it.
Right, a lot of it. But yeah, the ghost following you home, I think that was the first moment where I was like, okay, they're dealing with a ride element that the movie didn't necessarily have to use, but I like that they used it.
Because it's kind of the premise of the movie.
Well, I mean, I don't know about premise, but
it's the premise of what keeps him there.
Well, it's a reason for them to return. It's a major plot point.
Right. I guess that's the point.
Yeah.
It would have been like he was a physicist. Like, why didn't they use more of that for the reason to keep him around?
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll get to the camera.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, a little bit.
Yeah.
They abandoned it is what I was going to get to. They abandoned it.
They sure did. Yeah. It was a huge plot point, and then they just threw it away.
Yeah. I think
they
I
bit
was
off
just
more
impressed.
than they could chew with it, I think, which is why they had to abandon it.
I think this movie does a fair amount of that. But I think what started to impress me in this moment was, see, I was expecting it to be just a reference dump, which it is in some ways. But in the ways that relate to the story, like, yeah, there's stuff in the background, and there's a lot of like sort of B or C level references that don't have anything to do with the story. But any of the references that have something to do with the story are done in a way that like make sense and suit the story and don't make me hate that part of the ride.
Yeah, I forget at what point in the movie, but there's a portrait gallery. There's like a bunch of portraits, and Ben gets stuck on the one of the Mariner.
Right.
And that we're talking about now. The Mariner is another Easter egg. That portrait lives at Tokyo Disneyland and Walt Disney World.
Oh.
The Mariner is a ghost of a sea captain who drowned at sea. And of course, during that scene, we get a glimpse of the white busts, that follow you, the eyes.
Creepy.
We'll get to that later, the duelists and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, Dan, to your point, when he follows him home, he keeps changing the channel to The Deadliest Catch.
Right.
And Jimmy, here's why you hired me for this episode.
Yes, sir.
By the way, the white M&Ms haven't arrived yet.
Oh, you're right. I totally forgot.
Oh,
well, when they
if
do,
Sheila
it'll be one
and
at a
Cheryl
time.
It'll be one at a time.
They would have a lot to say about that. I wouldn't know. I wasn't there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember them. The Australians.
Yeah. But I have a thing. I won't be able to eat just one. I have to eat things in twos. So it's a whole thing. Don't worry about it. I didn't put it in the rider. But the reason I'm here is because the Mariner is actually a reference to one of the earlier concepts of the ride, where they had developed. This is back when the ride was going to be a walking tour, and they had developed this illusion where they told the same story of the Mariner and his wife, and they had this whole effect where a puddle of water would form. And you would see, you kind of looking down on it, on the room from above, a puddle of water would form, and you'd see a ghost above it, and it would fly at you and dissipate.
I remember hearing about that.
And it was apparently it worked very well, but only when you were standing absolutely still, which meant that once they moved to the Omni Mover system, they had to completely abandon it because you had to be in exactly the right place for this to really work.
So speaking of abandoned things, Audrey, again, this is for you to appreciate because you don't know the ride as well as we do. Mm-hmm. So the Hatbox Ghost, Jared Leto, was like, it was an opening day effect. Mm-hmm. There's this animatronic figure whose face was on his head, and he was carrying a hat box, and then his head would then end up being in the hat box instead of being on his head. You know what I mean? And it was lore forever. And then like 2010, they started putting him in a bunch of advertisements and whatnot. And it kind of became a cult favorite. And then in the 50th anniversary of Disneyland, they added him to the ride. And when Guillermo del Toro was going to do this movie, it was going to be about the Hatbox Ghost. That was going to be his movie.
Guillermo del Toro? He's an amazing director. He was attached to this
for a while. Yeah.
Oh, that would have been so good.
That character was added to Disneyland in 2015 at the end of the attic where the bride is. Mm-hmm. He's kind of standing outside. There's all kinds of lore around him. They're adding that same animatronic to Disney World. And what I've been told, boys, is that he's going to be added to the Endless Hallway.
Yeah. Huh. I think we'll need to get into that after we talk about
it.
We've completely diverted you from the plot, Jimmy. I'm sorry.
Okay, so Ben is visited by the priest and exorcist Father Kent,
Par
who's
for the
Owen
course.
Wilson, and he hires him to photograph the ghost. Camera again. Once Ben is initially incredulous until he returns home and is haunted by a ghost mariner because he crossed the threshold, who forces him to return to the mansion. Ben learns that Gabby, Travis, and Kent have also fallen victim to hauntings, forcing them to stay in the mansion. So anyone can be a hitchhiking ghost, not just the three?
Seems like it.
Yeah, that seems like it. I think like maybe they take a liking to. It's like when you adopt a cat. It's like they select you. You don't select them. Yeah.
Your Patronus,
Okay.
your demon, if you're in the Golden Compass book.
Expecto Patronum.
Yeah. What's your ghost that haunts you when you go home? Like, if a ghost had to pick you, which one would it be? Sarah Jessica Parker? Oh my God.
Bette Midler's character. Are they ghosts? They're not ghosts. They're witches.
No, I don't know. I was making a Sex and the City reference.
Oh.
Because this movie's all about references.
I'm more of a Blanche.
Blanche Devereaux. Too soon. Yeah. All right. So real quick, Ben and Kent recruit Harriet, who's a psychic. That's Tiffany Haddish. She's great.
She is funny.
She has legitimate powers, and they steal blueprints of the mansion from haunted house historian Professor Bruce Davis, who's Danny DeVito. The group finds a hidden seance room, and Harriet manages to contact the spirit of Gracie, who leaves a written message instructing them to talk to the legendary Madame Leota.
Mm-hmm.
Upon trying to do so, a mysterious entity forces Harriet out of the house. Bruce arrives shortly afterwards and becomes haunted.
When she gets thrown out of the house.
Oh, hold on, I've got that.
We get thrown out of the house with her.
Yes, we do. The seance room has a different chair for each person. There's a wicker leather chair for Harriet. That resembles a doom buggy. The chair for Ben has the same pattern as the chair on the attraction ride. We see
Rolly Crump.
What's that?
It's
Rolly Crump chair.
Yeah,
Rolly Crump chair. Kent has a rustic chair with heart-like designs. Travis has the tiny wooden boy chair, and Gabby has a black and red velvet chair with a raven. And this is the chair we see with Madame Leota in the Haunted Mansion.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like It's almost like the movie knows that the ride exists and that we are looking for these things. But right. Yeah, when she gets thrown out of the mansion, we go bumping along with her in 40X.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
Yeah. If you want the full experience.
Does it like lift up? Is it on hydraulics and it kind of like?
Oh yeah, yeah. In fact, you feel it towards the beginning of the movie going experience. You feel it lift up, and it's like, oh, here we go.
Does it make you wear a seatbelt?
No, but a seatbelt would have been handy when I was watching the trailer for the Meg 2.
Even the trailers.
Yes. Another fun feature of 40X is you're not really ever sure what perspective your motion is having. Like,
interesting.
Sometimes, yeah, like, so you're outside of the car, but you can feel what's happening in the car. Or sometimes if there's, a tug of war with like a hat, for example, then like, I guess you're the hat. And so you get pulled back and forth.
Oh boy.
There is no consistency at all. And
that's
making as many choices as they can.
It's absolutely delightful. Yeah.
Imagine being the person in charge of designing that. Just like, oh God, what decision? How do we make this choice so it's like part of the movie?
I think the decision process is, if we don't do something here, will someone complain that we should have done something here? And usually the answer is yes. So they're like, I guess people are hats now.
All right.
Playful spooks have interrupted our tour. Please remain seated in your doom buggy. We will proceed in just a moment.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. There's nothing sweeter than baking cookies during the holidays. With Prime, I get all my ingredients delivered right to my door, fast and free, no last-minute store trips needed. And of course, I blast my favorite holiday playlist on Amazon Music. It's the ultimate soundtrack for creating unforgettable memories. From streaming to shopping, it's on Prime. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to get more out of whatever you're into.
We have been unavoidably detained by pranky spirits. Kindly remain seated in your doom buggy, please. We will continue our tour momentarily.
So then Bruce Danny DeVito comes in shortly afterwards, and he becomes haunted. The group feels most comfortable in the stretching room from the ride. Same wallpaper, same portraits. That's where they kind of live.
Is
Something
it
that was observed.
Like that they didn't have to design anything for this movie. They just went to the ride and were like, okay, we'll use that. We'll pick that. Great. Just copy this.
I'm inclined normally to fall on the laziness thing, but I think it might have been smart that they definitely gave you a sense of the bigness of the mansion, but most sets that they use, except for there's a bedroom that isn't in the ride.
The seance room is better lit. I would say.
Agreed.
Most of the rooms in the ride, or most of the rooms in the movie, have an analog to something in the ride, which I think is kind of smart. And they managed to, as poorly written as the movie is in general, I think it's smartly written. And I think that having them have what ends up becoming the stretching room, as like their safe haven, they kind of explain it through some amount of like, just
that's the only room where things don't go crazy.
Yeah. It's like,
because in the ride, that's where things are kind of safe before you go into
right. So they kind of explain it enough to where it's like, this is kind of the only room that's safe. And then that it frees them up to not have to show more things of the mansion than there are in the ride, if that makes sense.
And I don't think it's laziness, Audrey, because it's not like they filmed this movie in the ride. They had to recreate and design all this stuff. What it is you've got this 60-year-old ride that fans love, and it's a sort of a cult following of sorts. What Disney is doing is creating for all new generations interest in this ride, and now it will become relevant. That's what's going on.
Okay.
They've tried it with several different properties. They tried it with Tomorrowland. They've tried it, and I think they did a successful job at making this ride now more relevant, because when you're on the ride, you're like, oh, I saw that, and I saw that, and I saw that, and this is what's really going on in this mansion, or what had happened before, whatever it is.
I think it ends up becoming kind of an origin story or a prequel for the mansion.
I think you're right.
Which I
but
kind
the
of
999 happy haunts and all that stuff, like that, it's all in the ride at the same time, though.
It's just like, so we talked about Pirates of the Caribbean earlier and how, and maybe that's because the Pirates ride is a bigger world in general. It has a few different settings. But like the Pirates of the Caribbean movies took this idea and then built an entire world using some small amount of references. Whereas like the Haunted Mansion, granted it is a single location, like the Haunted Mansion is just staying inside the box at all times with like some additional detail. Yeah. So like, yes, they are a little more constrained, but like
one of the things they did, Audrey, is they opened up the world to the Hatbox Ghost's house, and the Hatbox Ghost house, the Crump House, is the Florida Haunted Mansion.
Yeah. While we were watching the movie, I was like, I bet that building must be the Florida version of the ride. I didn't know at the time, but I had this feeling, and it's like, so yeah, you're connecting those two things, but like, I think, I don't know, wouldn't it have, I don't know.
So I think, Audrey, what I said in the chat is if you knew the ride as well as we did, I think you would enjoy it better because there's so many visual references. I'm not saying you would have liked it as a good movie. I'm just saying you would have appreciated it more because it would have meant more to you. One of the things that I thought was real dumb, and I'm sorry, Dan.
That's fine.
They got there, but like he's trying to collect 1,000 souls, the Hatbox Ghost. And like 35 years ago, he was at 933, but since then he's gotten 66 more, or whatever. So now he's at 999.
He's not a good businessman.
No, he's not. I think so. I'm going to go ahead and just reveal that I did enjoy this. I did enjoy watching this movie, possibly because of the format. And I think that if I watched it in a regular setting, I probably would have, after a few minutes, been like, okay, this is dumb. I don't like that they're doing this. I don't even why. I think I would have gotten into that nitpicky mode in the 40X format. Just for future reference, if there's any movie that you're like, that looks stupid, but possibly fun and enjoyable, see it in 40X because it'll totally do that for you.
I have. When
but
you're done,
I think
Dan.
that, yeah, I think that the comparison needs to be made between Pirates and Haunted Mansion movies, and I think the Pirates of the Caribbean movie, possibly movies plural, are better movies than this movie is as a movie. And I think that this movie, I think it's good for people I think it's really good to get buy-in for people who, just kind of, if you're somebody who just like, I need a cinematic universe to graft this onto. The visual references I did not care about, but I liked the plot references, how they used elements of the ride to suit the plot in a way that made sense, even in ways that, even if they were a little ham-handed, it worked for usually. But I don't know. I think the most useful thing for this movie that I really started to appreciate was, it's not scary, but it's scary. Like if you have kids that are like interested in scary movies, this is a great movie for that, because it actually has legitimate scares for that like age range.
I
wasn't scared. Jump scares.
I wasn't scared at all. At no point. I was a big boy.
I had to hide my face, but I scare easily. So
no, I mean, I appreciate what it did for that genre, what is trying to do for that genre. And I saw when I was watching, I think this is what I'm trying to get to. When I was watching the movie, the whole time I was trying to get to this place of, okay, does this take away from the ride? Does it make me like the ride less, or does it overpower the ride, or does it meet the ride in a way that makes sense? And to me, so some of the references, there are probably more references than I personally needed, but it didn't feel heavy with them. And it just kind of worked in general. And I rode the ride on the way home after watching this, and it did not ruin it for me.
So what I think is, and Eric, you can chime in. What I think, these two attractions are basically identical, Audrey. They were created at the same time. There are a couple of slightly different show scenes, different buildings, obviously, so they tied those in. But there's a lot of fan fiction of what the story is. When the Disneyland, they were both developed at the same time, there is no story. Like it's, so what I think this movie is doing is trying to shoehorn the story that we're watching so that when you go in the ride, you can associate the story you saw with the ride you're seeing, regardless of which one you see.
I see. And that's
elements
that's smart
of
them.
each ride. I think so. I think they did that effectively without shoving it down your throat.
What I think I'm trying to get at with my perspective is that the problem that the Pirates ride has now that the movies exist is a better problem to have. It's better to have the problem of, we made some really good movies and now maybe we can sort of add a few of these elements to this ride, versus we have this incredible ride. Let's make a movie with all of the parts of the ride, but nothing adds to the ride. Like the problem of having to maybe we could fit in this really cool character from this movie that was a standalone piece of work, piece of art, piece of
Hatbox
media.
Ghost be that.
Right. Maybe give a little bit more to the Hatbox Ghost. Yeah, that's just my point, is the problem that Pirates has is a better problem to have than what.
Eric, Eric, what say you?
Well, what say I Audrey, I do agree with the Pirates issue, because like I said, I was the whole time I was was trying to be in the movie. That's generally the way I approach a movie the first time I see it. I don't want to think ahead. I don't want to second guess. But I was kind of filing away some ideas, and then I unpacked it with my wife on the drive home. And Pirates is a very different movie because of what it is. It's allowed to build a world.
Yeah.
And when they created a storyline, and then it worked, and they just expanded it, and quite a few people consider that it worked. I'm among them. I love the Pirates movies. It's believable because you're talking about a concept that is out on the open sea. It's something that spanned decades, and
it's much bigger.
Half of the known world. But thinking about Haunted Mansion, I'm kind of with Jimmy. It didn't need to be more because it's a house, and they managed to make it 2 houses. I thought for sure at the beginning that I'm like, the sequel's going to be in the Northeast house.
It still could be.
And it still could be. But yeah, I like that concept that they managed to fit it in and build a story. I think they did cram in a few too many references, like Dan is saying, but the ones that I saw, like, some of them were in the background, like, hey, that portrait changed.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't, look, it's changing. And it's a flash of, here's the Escher room that you only get in Walt Disney World. And
yeah, which they have in the movie.
Right.
Ben's exploring and he sees the endless staircases and all that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, some of the things, and then some of them are completely made up, like the hallways spinning and people and floors dropping out. I liked that stuff. I think that those effects went pretty well. The odd physics in the house that you don't actually get on the ride. But I enjoyed, just saying the same as Dan, I enjoyed the whole movie. I have some quibbles about the end, but that's just them reaching too far.
So Dan mentioned something about a cinematic universe. So this is something I found. Travis, the kid, he has an array of action figures sitting in that tent that he's in.
Oh yeah,
and kind of this is from the new rock stars again. It says it reminds me of Cole in The Sixth Sense. But the most notable action figure, of course, is Black Panther. Later, when Kent is creating a dream team, he uses Namor to represent Bruce and Storm to represent Harriet. And there's a red figurine that is Doctor Strange. And remember, later there's some astral projection. So there you go. Then Travis is playing Marvel Monopoly alone.
The astral projection was a fun sequence.
Yeah. But that's a Doctor Strange thing. So anyway, some Marvel Cinematic Universe little things. They have the Marvel Monopoly is playing it alone. That's very sad.
I used to play Monopoly alone.
Poor kid.
Also very sad.
Oh, God. Eric.
It was Star Wars Monopoly, though.
The seance room.
What
they go in the
nerd.
seance room. I think the portrait they go in is the April to December portrait with the young woman who turns old.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's that portrait.
That seems to fit. That's another thing too about this is that you can kind of put a finger on, I think that's that portrait, but it's very rarely a direct, like, straight up copy of the thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, more plot. The group stay at the mansion where they proceed to look for Leota's ghost. Ben goes into the attic where he runs afoul of a ghostly bride, Constance Hatchaway.
By the way, that attic looks exactly like the and I actually mean that in a complimentary way. It was like, oh wow, I'm there.
Yeah.
So the bride was
finds. Creepy. Yeah, quite.
Oh, and we in the seats were very scared of the bride. By the way.
Were they? Did they
Yes.
do a jump scare?
They were very scared.
So runs afoul of ghostly bride and finds a locked trunk. Upon examining the contents, they find a crystal ball which houses Leota. Also,
and don't forget, it falls down the stairs, and we do too.
Oh, I bet he's bumped a lot.
We're everything. We're everything in the movie. If it moves, you're it. It's
That's
wonderful.
Funny. Even if it's not from that vantage point, you're watching someone fall down the stairs.
Especially
and
if
you're
it's
still...
not.
So Leota reveals that William Gracie bought the mansion and recruited Leota to try to contact the spirit of his dead wife every night for a full year, releasing hundreds of ghosts into the mansion before an evil entity tricked Gracie into taking his own life and trapped Leota inside her crystal ball. Harriet attempts to perform an astral projection, for more answers, but ends up sending Ben out of his body, who discovers Gracie as well as the evil entity, the Hatbox Ghost. Now, this scene, Ben is incredibly sad about his dead wife. And in order to do the astral projection, you have to basically be emotionally open. And when they do the seance, he's more vulnerable than she is. So he's the one that astral projects.
I liked, I don't know. When the Hatbox Ghost was not revealed, I liked how ominous he felt. I will give him that. And I said the astral projection thing was fun, and I still stand by that. That was cool.
Yeah, it was a nice scene.
How did they get all those cameras set up in there, though?
He
did at the beginning. He was setting up cameras.
Oh.
But they didn't have the screen set up in the seance room.
That's true.
And why? Why
if you watch the movie in 40X, it doesn't matter.
Why did they make her so CGI'd? She looked awful.
She was on Zoom, and she.
Well, I think that they were trying to get. I think they were trying to get her to look like the ball in the ride.
Right.
Even her voice and mannerisms.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, what they could have done, they could have done what's in the ride with CGI if they wanted to. They could have, what's her name's mom?
Jennifer Tilly?
No, that's a different movie. The ride.
The 2003
Jason's favorite
movie.
person. God, what's her?
Leota Toombs' daughter, Kim Irvine. So real quick, Madame Leota, Audrey, was voiced by the wicked stepmother from Cinderella, and she was also
Maleficent.
Ooh.
So that was her voice, but the face was actually done by an Imagineer. Her name is Leota Toombs. And so the actual person's Leota Toombs. That's Madame Leota. Her daughter is named Kim Irvine, who's also an Imagineer.
She's the best Imagineer.
And here's her mother speak. Because her mother, at the end of the ride, there's what they call Little Leota, and she says, "Hurry back." That's the actual Leota Toombs saying those words.
Wow.
Jimmy would enjoy being mugged if the mugger made an obscure Disney reference while robbing him blind.
He's not napping. He doesn't know what he said.
Okay, so this part's kind of fun. Hassan Minhaj is in this movie. So the next morning after this whole seance thing, Bruce and Ben go to a sketch artist. It's played by Hassan Minhaj. And he describes the thing that he saw, and it's perfect. This is a perfect rendering, and he's added skin.
That was a good bit.
And what I loved about that, I don't know about loved, what I enjoyed about that part was in the trailer, it's played off in this way where it's like, I didn't know the tone of the whole movie from the trailer, so I was just like, oh, he just happens to get it perfectly, and that's kind of stupid. But when you're in the movie, I think you realize more that he's kind of almost mockingly, he's like, okay, fine, I'm going to draw exactly what you're telling me.
Exactly.
There's no possible way this is right. And I'm going to show it to you, and you're going to realize the absurdity of what you just told me. And like, it's played almost the acting with Hassan
Nicki Minaj.
With Nicki Minaj. He was very subtly communicating that like these people are idiots. I'm just going to give them what they're exactly.
He does it very well.
Yeah.
That's my problem is like everybody in the movie talks like that at all times. It's all quippy and like, yeah, like, oh, you're an astrophysicist? Well, that's funny. I do ghost tours. Like we're getting married now. I'm like, are we? Are you going to stay in the hotel?
We're the same.
Like, oh, I'm a priest, but am I? I don't know. I'm Owen Wilson, but like that's how everybody talks the whole time, and it's so irritating. Except for when they're like, now's the time for me to give my monologue about how I'm terribly torn up and in grief and suffering. But like Audrey, it's just there's no on ramp or off ramp. It's just like we're quipping and now we're serious.
That's how they talk in the ride. So
what?
No,
you don't even know.
Hey, get into the seat. Make sure the bar is on your legs or whatever. I don't care. Do I? Whatever. return back or be haunted forever. Okay, get off the ride. Whatever. We don't care. Disneyland.
Well, this is a stretch, and this is not what you're saying, but the ride is, in fact, a little bit of both. It's kind of spooky, and then at the end, it's fun and whimsical and boop, 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 boop. So, in a way, that's not. I don't think that's the point they were trying to make, but in a way, it does fit.
I think. So I completely identify what you're saying, and I agree completely with what you're saying, and I think where I was able to not be completely bothered by that was, first of all, moving seats, and second, I think it was also like it just feels like, and I realize this isn't necessarily a compliment, but I mean it as one. It feels very much like one of those old throwaway live action Disney movies, like the Cat from Outer Space or something like that, where it's like, it's this goofy idea. You go in knowing it's a goofy idea, like Darby O'Gill and the Little People. It's just like, okay, whatever. Let's see what they do. And all they have to do is not completely fail and not completely, there's this agreement between myself and the movie, or the audience in the movie, that like, yeah, there's gonna be some amount of that tone, sometimes updated for the time period, of course. There's going to be some kind of like loosey-goosey with the emotional content, with the writing quality. It's really going to be like, okay, beat to beat to beat. But
I think I would believe that if it seemed like all the actors wanted to be there, and none of them felt like they wanted to be there.
They on certain days, I think they felt they certainly wanted to be there. But I guess my point is, the movie didn't need them to want to be there in order to work. All they had to do was make it so that a kid could experience some scary moments, and then have the parent be like, well, if you could make it through the movie, you could definitely make it through the ride. And then they also had to make it so that people just kind of forgot that the other movie existed.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we're sorry that... Oh, Eric's back. Sorry, I was apologizing. Eric had to leave. All right, so let's... we'll never end. So the Hassan Minaj's sketch is so accurate, they were able to go through like forensic, historical documents to find out this is Alistair Crump.
They didn't spend any time on it, which was great. We didn't have to see them going to a library.
Exactly. So for your reference, another person that worked on the ride, Audrey, is named Rolly
Alistair
Crump.
Crowley. Oh, sorry.
So Rolly Crump... The name, no, this is where to get now. But the guy, boys, you'll know that the last name of this groundskeeper who's scared with the dog, who's a ghost in this movie, also named Crump. Are they related? Great. His last name is Crump. The groundskeeper's last name is Crump.
He was kind of a ghost in the movie.
He was a ghost in the movie.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Alistair Crump is a rich heir who killed his fellow socialites out on revenge for his father's abusive behavior and the death of his mother, before being beheaded himself by mutinous servants. Crump proceeds to lock the mansion down, but Ben, Kent, and Travis manage to escape. They find Crump Manor, which is, of course, an homage to the Disney World Haunted Mansion.
Yes.
Which has now become a historical site. Now, this scene... we learned from the mariner, by the way, who followed them, because, ghosts will follow you home, that Crump needs someone to willingly give up their life and become the mansion's 1,000th spirit in order to escape the mansion. That's how Crump can get out. Travis then find Crump's hat, which they can use as part of a ritual to banish Crump back to the afterlife. What are Winona Ryder and Dan Levy doing in this movie?
Great question.
Especially Dan Levy.
Right? He's just like in it for 30 seconds. And he's in the main title credits.
I think Winona Ryder was there
because of Beetlejuice?
I think she was there as the Nightmare Before Christmas reference.
Was she there just so they could show off like the...
She wasn't in that movie.
Ride attendant costumes?
Possibly.
Maybe.
I think she was the Tim Burton connection. And if so, I'm glad they didn't go further with it.
Yeah.
I also think that Alistair Crump, they talk about how he was, kind of a douche and would like do little things to like make sure that he was always at a higher level of importance.
Yeah, he has like pads on his chair.
I think that was a reference, a very subtle reference to Mark Davis.
Oh boy.
That's a stretch, but I mean,
by Dan.
Well, I don't know.
Maybe
it's a thing.
I don't know how many Imagineers worked on this movie.
He moved his office right next to Walt's.
Yeah.
Is it telling about this movie that we're not talking about the characters at all because we don't care about them?
Yes.
There aren't any.
It felt like Dan Levy showed up one day and they're like, give him a costume and a funny accent.
Hey, you know that show that's really popular? He's in it.
He's in the Bazinga show.
No.
Isn't he
Let's
in
cast
Bazinga,
these
the
people
TV show?
because they don't have anything better
Schitt's
to
Creek.
do.
He's also in Bazinga, though, right?
Are you talking about Big Bang Theory?
Yeah.
No.
Isn't that what Bazinga?
No. Now you're just being racist.
Ew, David.
That would be me
done.
being ableist, okay?
The three make it back to the mansion where Ben and Kent rescue Gabby.
Oh, that was Dan Levy, not the other. I thought that was the other actor who actually is in the Bazinga show.
Which one would that
be? The guy
be?
from Roseanne.
Leonard.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay.
It's my grandpa's
Ben and
favorite
Kent,
show. Big Bang
It's a good
Theory.
show. They rescue Gabby, Harriet, and Bruce, but Crump burns the hat and plans to use Travis's grief over the loss of his father to have him come to the other side to be the 1000th. Now, this is interesting because Travis keeps talking about getting a hold of his dad, like he's going to try his dad again because he's been communicating with him, and Ben doesn't know his dad is dead.
Yeah.
So he thinks he's like, they're divorced and he's making a phone call. Audience thinks that too. And then you cut to a scene in the car. Well, I did. I don't know.
I thought they were
cut to a
divorced.
scene in the car.
I thought for a moment I was like, oh, wouldn't it be interesting if they did? Nah, they're not going to do that. But they did.
They did.
Maybe that was it. Maybe it was one of the few times I got pulled out and like, he's probably dead though. That's probably the thing. That'll make
the thing because
at the end.
For a while we think Ben's going to be the 1000th because of his emotional grief, but it's actually Travis who's communicating with his dead father, who's actually the Hatbox Ghost, I guess. So anyway,
Hatbox Ghost is good at impressions.
That's true.
He was. He did it in the first place. Yeah.
That what's his name?
Jared Leto.
Jared Leto
created impressions.
So Ben finds Travis and manages to convince him to let go of his father as they and Gabby confront Crump in the graveyard. Ben makes peace with losing Alyssa. Kent manages to convince the ghost to turn on Crump and joins forces with them. And Bruce delivers a piece of the hat to Harriet, who uses Leo's incantation to banish Crump.
And that's, I think that's the only part of the movie. I mean, don't get me wrong. The movie is, as a movie, it's complete garbage. But as the Haunted Mansion movie, it's enjoyable for me.
Yep.
And that was one of the only references, the incantation being the ghost host narration. That was one of the only things where I was like, oh God. But the seat was moving and it was fun. I was getting spat on by the water.
And your mom.
And my mom. She was enjoying it too.
Hey everybody, spit on Dan.
So
he's my
the movie
son.
Works. The movie worked because I do want to go to Disneyland again and ride the Haunted Mansion ride, but not because the movie was good. It's because like I want to know how much better of a ride as an experience it is than watching this movie was. You know?
Interesting.
Well,
like this movie sucked.
Half the year you can do that.
Yeah.
Oh.
So epilogue. Many of the ghosts decide to stay in the mansion, now in harmony with Gabby and Travis. Harriet regains full confidence in her psychic abilities. Kent undergoes an ordainment to actually become a real priest. Bruce maintains his newfound friendships, and Ben goes back to teaching and adopts a stray cat. I want to talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
The group reunites on Halloween for a party at the mansion with happy haunts. So that is the end of the movie. There's a concept in the movie called ghost winks. A ghost wink, for example, in this, there's a cat outside of his door at the beginning with the Mariner stuff and the haunting. And then it's there again and again. And his wife really likes tater tots. It's her favorite food. And when they're out on their thing to get the sketch from Hassan Minhaj, they very much go to Burger King.
Oh, yeah. Very noticeably.
To get tater tots, which they don't have at Burger King. At the end of the movie, he sees the cat, looks at the name tag. The cat is called Tater Tot. So that is a ghost wink from his wife. Mm-hmm. And it's an interesting. There are some cast interviews, and they talk about their own experiences with ghost winks, and it's a touching plot point. I like it.
I have a ghost wink story in my family, so I kind of appreciated that.
Tell us.
Do you want? Should I?
Yeah.
Okay. My mom. Well, there's two now that I think about it. My grandpa Jesse Weber, who's my mom's dad, used to carry coins in his pockets, and change would fall out of his pockets when he was alive. So now whenever my mom finds money on the ground, it's like, oh, grandpa's thinking of me, or my dad's thinking of me. So by extension, I was like, oh, it's grandpa whenever I find money on the ground. And then the other one is my cousin George passed away when he was 16, and my aunt Liz lived in Seattle at the time, and like about a week after his passing, a barred owl was hanging out around their house, and it flew so close to the house and was like sitting on their porch railing for like a good amount of time. And like in that time window where the owl was there and my aunt Liz was there, they had this connection. So she associates barred owls with my cousin, her son. So that's our ghost wink story from our family. What do you guys got? Ooh, spooky.
Nothing. I don't have anything like that. Yeah,
I can't remember mine, and I would ramble. So if I remember it, I'll do it for a past show correction.
Brandy's got a bunch, but I sure don't.
So Victor Geist playing the organ, with the little ghost things coming out of the pipes,
dancing.
Mm-hmm. We see the endless hallway. We see floating candelabra. We see the dueling people, they're brothers in the movie.
We see people doing Duolingo, yes.
We see
Duolingo.
Duolingo. We see Pickwick. Pickwick, we see ghost on the chandelier.
Right, and we see the three, hitchhiking ghosts from the ride.
Alligators, quicksand.
All the stuff's in the ride.
That's right.
Before watching the movie, I saw an article, because my feed is garbage, and it showed a picture of it was an article about this movie, and in it there was a picture of a candle with like a face on it, and I was in that moment, I was like, oh God, no, there's going to be a candle character. I mean, there kind of was going to be.
The candle was trying to blow out its own flame.
The ghost hid in the candle.
The ghost hid in the candle, which and they were in the parallel dimension thing. So like it totally worked. But when I saw just that graphic, I was like, oh God, this movie is going to be so bad.
But that moment, that was funny. I enjoyed that.
It was a brief moment. It made sense. It worked for the moment,
There's the grandfather clock there's a 13 instead of a 12. And when it gets to 13, that's when the house goes crazy. Which kind of is an allusion to the ride, because we see the clock and then we get into, and then we see all the ghosts after that, the seance and everything. So
I think it sets the ride up as well as anything can or should.
Right.
Yeah. The only things that stood out to me that I disliked, kind of more to Audrey's point, the things that were a little bit too much. And I mentioned before, they kind of reached a little bit too far on a few things. Because they had so many characters and they had so many moments of, but I'm not really a priest. Well, I'm not confident as a medium. Well, I'm a little boy and the kids make fun of me.
Right.
At the end of the movie, it was, I'm the class vice president.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm a priest now. And I did good at the ghost thing. I freed Madame Leota all by myself. You didn't see any of this on camera, but you did get to see, at least we got to see Kent get his, I don't know that it has anything to do with his priesthood, but convince a bunch of ghosts that they wanted to join him, and we got to see plenty from Ben.
Well, he's the one that has the actual character arc.
Right.
The other ones, it's a show don't tell, right?
Yeah,
Or
but
it's
the
a
rest of them,
tell-don't show,
they had to, at the end, they had to at some point in the movie introduce, well, I'm not a great medium, I think, because look, this schmuck over here was the one who astral projected, not me.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end of the movie, she's like, I did it.
Yeah.
And the kid could have been like
Well, that's so
president of the
weird.
D&D club or something instead of like he doesn't need to become like the cool popular kid. He could have been like, I'm still a weird kid, but I'm finding a way to be like successful and connect with people there.
He's like, maybe everybody's really interested because it's New Orleans. He's like, hey, look, I can talk to my dead dad with this piece of paper and a pencil.
The what you're saying, the whole telling instead of
I'd be
the whole
interested.
concept about show don't tell in storytelling is why Secret Invasion didn't work, because there's so much telling and there's no showing. Like we talk about, never mind. Anyway,
What is Secret Invasion?
It's the
It's
best
a
TV
Marvel
show ever made.
It's not
Based on the best Marvel ride ever.
Yes. But only at Universal Islands of Adventure.
Have you ever wanted to see a character become every character from every Marvel movie?
Oh my
before?
God.
No.
This is
It's just
serious for you.
I'll
all they
pass.
do is talk
Thanks.
about how Nick Fury was after the blip. They didn't show it. Like, shouldn't they have shown him come out of the blip and like have a whole episode about him reacclimating and
getting bitter and scared? And
it could have been so much better.
Or, they could have gone into like the whole idea of what it is like to have these two factions and factions within factions and ways to like get through this very tense sort of situation. Or you could just become Hulk and Thor and Mantis and
Groot
and
Captain Marvel,
the wizard from Doctor Strange that isn't Doctor Strange.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, so that movie, what's the sequel going to be about? The Hatbox Ghost didn't really die. He went back to his house, and that's the sequel.
Oh.
The 150
They got a
year old
fountain in
island.
there.
Like Erik had predicted.
I really
in.
hope there's no sequel.
I really hope there's no sequel also. And there
there's
won't
gonna
be
be a
because this
sequel.
movie did not make any money.
Oh, thank God. Okay.
I
On
wonder
the other
why.
hand, Barbie.
It does. The only thing about this movie that leaves me going, is Hatbox Ghost being left in the ride. Because everything else works. Everything else fits. And
like now they're all happy.
yeah, it's like, hey, now it's fun. Now it's the fun thing. Like, we're going to get you. Just kidding. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
It nails that for the ride perfectly. But then now we have Hatbox Ghosts where it's like, why'd you invite that guy? He's mean.
Well, he's outside.
Maybe.
He wants to come back in.
He imprisoned all of us for an eternity.
So here's what we're going to be drinking while we watch this movie.
Yes.
And by the way, here's the cool thing. Just like what Disney did, we released this episode in summer so that we can re-release it in Halloween time, just like Disney will.
Ooh, spooky.
We'll put
Or
this
Christmas,
episode
'cause they're
out
all
on
the
Disney
same.
Plus.
You just don't
Ho,
want to do
ho,
another
ho.
episode this year.
That's not true. So we're going to be
Jimmy's
drinking
retiring?
Haunted House Hoppy Dark Ale from Allagash Brewing Company. Doomed by a love of pitch black porters and our Allagash house beer, we summoned the recipe for Haunted House. Roasted barley and black prince malt. Curse this beer with a gravely dark hue. Hopped with crystal, Chinook, and Saz hops, this beer ends with a ghost of coffee-flavored bitterness and hauntingly complex malty palate. 6.6 ABV.
Wow.
Audrey, what are we going to be eating?
So spooky.
What did Google tell you?
Google, I did actually Google this one a little bit, but the concept is something that haunts you after you eat it. So I Googled a recipe from All Recipes. It's spicy asparagus with garlic. We're going to make a few substitutions and alterations. We're going to up the garlic. We're going to add some anchovies. We're going to swap out the red pepper with ghost chilies and a lot of cheese. So that makes you constipated, and it's really painful when you finally crap it out. And the asparagus will obviously make your pee stink. So that's the meal.
Like Disney. Like Disney in this movie. Really painful when you crap it out. Sorry, Dan. Say that again.
So do you get a visit from the ass dragon?
Exactly.
Astral projection. Astral projection.
Yeah.
Get it?
He went there.
Eric, what
drug are we going to have?
What drug are you going to have?
So, listener, if you don't know the Supreme Resort, Eric is a pharmacist.
Yes. Now, I went about this in two ways, because if you're a super huge Haunted Mansion fan and you're really worried, say you're really worried that this might be bad, I likened it to getting chemotherapy. Particularly irinotecan, which is a particular oncolytic where you're really just desperate that this works. It has to work, but you're worried because you've been told it might not. And you might have some side effects. And one of the main side effects of irinotecan is diarrhea.
It's a theme going on.
Right.
The astral projection.
There we go. Now, the one that I really settled on was more a milder version of this, saying, okay, so you're taking Clomid, which is a fertility medication. You know, you really would like to have a kid. But you're not going. This isn't a huge intervention. This isn't IVF. This isn't anything big. It's a cheap medication that just stimulates fertility in women. So it's kind of like we'd like to have a kid, but we don't want to push things too far. We'd like this movie to be okay, but if it doesn't work out, we'll be okay. There are other things we can do. There are other movies we can see. If this doesn't, if we didn't like this, if we didn't like this, we can go to Barbie. If this medication doesn't work, we can try IVF next. So that's kind of where I was going with it. It's pretty mild. If it doesn't work, if it just doesn't work. Maybe you're a little nauseous when you took the pill. So that's kind of where I was going with it. Clomid, everybody. Clomiphene.
Amazing. So funny.
I thought about that really, really hard.
That's perfect. So for our audio experience, I have also thought about this really hard, and there are a couple directions that I wanted to go in, but then, so before we press record on this, Jimmy was saying to me, well,
Wait, did you press record?
I did. Jimmy said to me, well, this is your favorite ride. And I said, oh, no, it was. It isn't anymore, because I'm tired of hearing people talk about this ride. Because in the past 10 years or so, 15 years or so, this ride has gone from being like the weird, the kind of like B-side fun. It's like it went from being the B-side of Pirates of the Caribbean. For those of you listening at home, a B-side was when they released singles. It would be okay. Anyway, to being the thing that the obnoxious person who you go to Disneyland with won't shut up about the entire time, because they want to tell you how dark and interesting they are, when in fact it's just a very good ride done well, with some clever touches. And I thought, what else is like this? Who else ruins things for people? Well, people, when they talk about the band Rush. So here is a compilation of the YouTubers Andy and Alex talking about Rush.
Dude, those lyrics were good.
Dude, the drummer writes all the lyrics too.
Haunted Mansion fans, this is you.
That drummer's phenomenal.
Phenomenal.
The instrumentation has literally never ceased to amaze me. Just
the movie's made $29 million domestically.
Gnarly is what that was.
Dude, that was probably some of the best bass work,
ever,
and guitar work I've heard
ever.
And then pairing the meaning of the lyrics and the projection of the lyrics with the instrumentals, just Rush. Your songs are so deep, dude. Yeah. The way he was making his guitar wail, with pure emotion, reminds me of the way David Gilmour plays. So that kind of play style where it's pure emotion.
Well, I've heard when they're in the studio, and this could be wrong, but I've heard.
It's the talking over each other with excitement.
They're so excited to sound like the smartest person talking about Rush.
Yeah, they're not singing along with it. Or doing the drum solo with it.
And so the bass player, Geddy Lee and Neil Peart, will pick through the solos, and it's still just three guys, and they play it that same caliber, that same level.
worked up.
It's
but not in a good
so
way.
impressive because these songs are
You want to leave
on
immediately.
every
This is a
front,
conversation
guitar,
you want to
bass,
walk away from.
Drums, and do all of that and play it perfectly at however old they are is stupid impressive to me. That's insane, dude.
Guys, they play multiple instruments.
As somebody who works in production and writing and whatnot,
New
when
podcast.
you hear the acoustic guitar come in the beginning, it's not times when you
See, that's the thing, and that's why this works. It's because Rush,
but at the very big start of the song,
perfectly fine band.
You hear the effect. It's a really
probably
good
as good as people say. But
the hard part is
they can't possibly be
end of a poem.
as good as people say.
Crazy.
I just meant how the lyrics
you need
will,
to shut up about
Rush.
Sense
to
you need to shut up about the Haunted Mansion. Just let these things be good things.
All the instrumentals, because it's the way they came into it. They had it was some instrument that people don't usually use. Right?
This guy has said so many times.
It sounded like a block, a wooden block, something like that.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Yes.
In the very beginning,
wooden block.
Instruments like that.
There's 3 people in that band.
Yeah, dude.
There's 3 people in the band.
The thing is, the lyric before that was why that's true. Being hopeful yet always
discontent. Did you see the movie?
True.
I love you, bro. I love you, man.
Everybody's content is when change doesn't really happen as much as everyone's
true.
All
their relationship
overstimulated.
really
fatten up.
Spawns by their fascination and love of Rush.
Later on in the song, I looked over him and I was like, man, why does this feel kind of like Boston?
It feels like Boston, but it's Rush.
Acoustic a lot to beef up a track.
Can you imagine?
I was in a philosophy class in high school, and we talked about a class discussion, just the idea of free will. Mm-hmm. And I do like how in the song he's saying that free will does exist. You know what I mean? Because there is tons of debates, it's still ongoing,
my coworker says, you know what I mean.
Oh man, the way that I
all the
thought
time,
about here, I almost thought it was
starting
it's up
it feels
to you.
like a
if you choose it to, I don't know what the bass was rocking, but that's at least 4 instruments.
Mike Myers does that.
Neil Peart has
Mike Myers interviews,
78,000 drums,
he says, you know what I mean?
plus a xylophone, plus the bells,
a lot.
And the wood block.
And they make the instruments that when you're in school in music theory class and you're in elementary school and they're making you learn xylophone or other things oh, this is a lame instrument or whatever. They make those instruments so badass. You choose. You go to the fridge and you
don't have to bleep it.
I'm gonna tap out in a minute.
Anyway, that's good.
I'm not allowed to ride the Haunted Mansion because the one time I rode it, I punched a ghost in the nards.
Oh, that makes sense.
Oh, Ash.
They come at you.
So that's the Haunted Mansion.
That's the Haunted Mansion.
We lived. We all survived.
So I watched it, and I think I've said how I feel about it. I think I kind of agree with all of you in some capacity. Here's my problem. I bought the tickets. My wife's at book club. I bring my 2 sons, who are both fans of the ride, like the Rush fans. And we see movies at the Movie Tavern, which is now owned by Marcus Theaters. That's another story. The Movie Tavern, in its original form, was a theater where you could go, sit down, and when you want somebody to bring you food and drinks, you push a button on your seat. And they come to you, and they say, what do you want? And I say, I want beer, and I want a hamburger. And they bring it to you, and it was delicious. And then if you want another one, push the button, and you get another beer. And it's great. COVID happens. Marcus Theaters takes over. They do away with they'll still serve you at your seat. You have to buy it in the app. And you can't buy alcohol in the app, so you have to go to the bar. So I ordered the food 4 hours in advance of going to see the movie. I order it for being delivered.
It really is like a Disneyland experience.
I'm telling you. It didn't have to, but I decided to. So the movie starts at 6:15, which means previews start at 6:15. So we have a good 15, 20 minutes to eat our food before the movie starts. I got a receipt from the theater. I go into the receipt and it says, hey, you want food delivered? Sure. Click this button. So I click the button and it pulls all the information from the movie that I'm going to see, my seat numbers, the theater number, order the food. It's going to be delivered at 6:15. 6:15 comes and goes and it's not here. And then I look at the receipt. I'm like, wait a minute. I ordered it for theater 2 seats, these seats. The receipt shows theater 1 with these seats. So they pulled the wrong information. So I'm like, they delivered the food to the wrong theater. So I leave the theater to go get my food, try to find a manager, found a manager. Okay, here's what happened, blah, blah, blah. Okay, what did you get? Take a picture of my phone receipt. We'll bring it right out to you. 20 minutes later, no food. So I'm like, I got to leave the theater again. So I miss a good 5 minutes of the movie. Found another manager. Same thing. Here's the thing. Took a picture of my thing. Oh, we'll bring it right out. 45 minutes later, no food. So I have to leave the theater again. So I missed so much of this movie.
Meanwhile, the people in theater one, the people in your seats in theater one are so full, they're drunk, they're happy.
Exactly. So at that point, then I'm like, well, I need a beer, and I go out, and the line has got like 10 people in it. I'm like, screw it. So I went back in. Anyway, I missed a good chunk of this movie.
Meanwhile, I had a great Philly cheesesteak and a Bell's Two Hearted while watching this movie.
Oh, did you go to the what's it called?
Alamo Drafthouse. Yeah.
Alamo Drafthouse. They used my drains.
Jimmy, may I recommend next time you go, there's another viewing experience you might want to do.
They don't have that around here.
40X.
They don't have
Do
that
they
around
serve
here.
food at the 40X? Because I feel like
I
that'd be a
certainly
little
hope
like
not.
It's too extreme.
Certainly hope not. I
too
do
much
remember,
turbulence.
though, so I used to work for this movie theater chain, the same one that I went to, Edwards. It's not a secret. And when I worked there, and at the theater that I was at, we started serving alcohol, and it was policy that before pouring the beer into a glass, we would always ask, are you seeing this movie in 40X?
That's great.
Because you'll be wearing your beer.
Yeah. And I don't know how anyone could possibly. I think I've said on this show before, many episodes back, to the point that I'm sure no one remembers. If you want a very unique movie-going experience where, like, you actually experience an inversion of the emotional content of the movie, see it with descriptive audio, because it just ruins everything in a way that's really fun and really funny. Like any like Fast and Furious movie with descriptive audio is gonna be great. With this, it kind of has, like I said, it is literally like putting lipstick on a pig. It is like this movie. Do not watch a movie where you care about the characters or the story or the emotional and any of it in this format. It will be bad. However, Meg 2, 40X. Haunted Mansion, 40X. Maybe not Barbie movie.
Maybe
Oppenheimer?
Not. Yeah.
No, God, no.
Yeah. By the way, go see the Barbie movie. I think after doing the research of this movie and all that, I want to see it again, and I want to see it again in a theater. I probably won't, but I do want to see it again. I feel like I'll like it better the second time
when you watch all of it,
when I see the whole movie. But anyway, so yeah, that was the movie. Thanks for being here, Eric.
You're welcome, and thanks for inviting me.
I took some note. I took your advice. It's not just me reading off Wikipedia anymore. Interjected my own personal experience.
Oh, that's great.
So thank you. I thought it was a better experience, and your dog wants you to clean up his diarrhea.
Yep.
Sorry.
Well, thank you, everybody. I appreciate you listening. So does Dan. So does Audrey. So does Eric. I hope you enjoyed. Obviously, if you want to go ride the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland, Disney World, Phantom Manor at Disneyland Paris, you need to do nothing more than just call 856 Our Ears. A concierge like myself will help book a trip for you, and then we'll personally act out the Haunted Mansion movie for you.
With finger puppets.
With finger puppets. Audrey will make them. And there's other shows that you can listen to. Ears Up in Depth, The Puny Pod, Supreme Resort, of course, being the best. And then the Star Wars show, which I don't know what they're talking about right now.
Podcast?
Ahsoka trailer. What podcast?
Bantha Milk.
Yeah, that's what yeah, those are all the shows. And then, yeah. And Eric, join us when we say, until next time.
Oh, yeah.
Be kind.
Be kind.
And rewind.
Correct. I am not a car. I am the Night Automated Roving Robot, the first in a bold new experiment. You may call me Car.
Somebody's behind us.
Yes, I see. It is the inferior production line. Copy.
I heard that, Car, and you haven't seen anything yet.
Why don't you finish the job? You got him where you want him?
You don't even begin to understand what the job is.
It's the armored car.
No, that's the decoy. I accept your challenge.
That was close.
Yeah, I want it to be close.
If you insist on a game of dodging, perhaps this will change your mind. How would you like me to slowly remove the air from the passenger compartment? Have you ever seen someone explode in a vacuum? No. I have a better idea. A pacemaker. Well, a laser. Intended for me, no doubt. I came for alpha capacitors. What an unexpected surprise.
What is that voice?
Oh, that's just the ringmaster, Car.
Ringmaster? I scan no such person.
I'll have, what do they call that breakfast thing?
This is a primitive remote, devoid of locomotion.
I said the ringmaster is ready.
The tip-top tent?
No, that's not it.
Can I have your order, please?
Tony, Rev, the operator of this device must be nearby.
Huh? What are you talking about?
You guys want to snap it up? I don't have all day.
There. Did you hear? He is becoming abusive.
You wise guys are what?
Amazing. His anger grows.
Car, be quiet now, please.
All right, that's it. Come on, get out of here before I come out there and throw you out. You hear me?
Do not fear, my friends. I will protect you. Brace for collision.
You're asking for it.